Okay, so have you ever looked at like a jumble of cables and wires behind a server rack, or like even in your own home entertainment system, and thought, man, there has to be like a better, more organized way to do this?
Well, I think pretty much anyone who's ever dealt with technology has had that thought, right? Like, I know I certainly have.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that kind of brings us to like the heart of what we're going to deep dive into today, which is this whole world of the RCDD certification. Like, what does that even stand for? Why should you care? And like, how could it seriously boost your tech career? So let's just like jump right in.
That's good to me.
RCDD, what is that? What does that actually stand for?
Okay, so RCDD stands for Registered Communications Distribution Designer,
Okay.
and it's a globally recognized certification from BICSI. And it signifies expertise in basically designing, integrating, and managing these complex structured cabling systems.
Okay, so structured cabling systems, that sounds kind of like a mouthful. What are we really talking about here?
Well, think about like the electrical wiring in your house,
Oh,
right? It's
yeah.
not just a random mess of wires.
Right.
It's carefully planned out, organized, designed to safely and efficiently deliver power where it's needed. Structured cabling is kind of the same concept, but for all your low voltage stuff.
What?
Data networks, phone lines, security cameras, AV equipment, all that runs on structured cabling.
So it's like the backbone of all the tech we use every day.
Exactly. And an RCDD is the person who designs that backbone, making sure everything works seamlessly and meets industry standards.
Got it. So if I'm hearing you right, it's not just about like plugging in a cable here and there. It's about having a plan, a design, like
Right.
an architect
Right.
for your technology, right?
Exactly. They're the architect of the cabling infrastructure. They create the blueprint that ensures everything connects properly, meets regulations, and is future-proof.
Future-proof, that's a big one, especially with tech changing so fast these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And RCDD has to think ahead, anticipate future needs, and design a system that can adapt to those changes.
Okay, so why should someone listening even care about this? What's the benefit of understanding the RCDD world?
Well, I mean, first off, having an RCD certification instantly boosts your credibility in the industry.
Right.
It tells employers, clients, that you're not just someone who knows how to plug in a cable. You have a deep understanding of the science, the standards behind it all.
It's a mark of expertise, basically.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And that expertise opens doors to a wider range of career opportunities, from designing network infrastructure for large companies to specializing in AV systems for venues, data centers, all sorts of things.
Okay, so there's definitely a career advantage there, and I'd imagine that translates to a potentially higher earning potential as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Expertise and demand often go hand in hand with a better paycheck. So, it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm getting a sense of what this RCDD certification is all about, why it's valuable. But I bet some people listening might be feeling like, okay, this sounds great, but where do I even begin? This seems pretty overwhelming.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Like, it's a whole world of knowledge, and
Yeah.
it can definitely feel intimidating at first.
Right.
But that's kind of why we're doing this deep dive today. Like, our mission is to break it down for you, make it understandable, and help you get started on the right path.
Yeah, we're here to demystify it all, make it less scary.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the foundation. What's the core function of an RCDD? Like, what do they actually do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, the RCDD is involved in the entire life cycle of a structured cabling system from the very beginning to the very end.
Okay.
They start with the initial design phase, figuring out the client's needs, what they're going to be using the system for, how much capacity they'll need, and they create the plans, the blueprints for how everything is going to be laid out.
So they're like the visionary, the strategist for the cabling infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. And they also oversee the integration of the system, making sure everything's installed correctly according to the plan. And even once the system is up and running, they might be involved in ongoing management and maintenance.
So it's not just a design it and forget it kind of role.
Definitely not. It's very hands-on, very involved throughout the entire process.
Got it. Now, you mentioned earlier that structured cabling supports all sorts of low voltage applications. Can you give us some specific examples of what that actually covers?
Sure. So we're talking about everything from basic voice communication systems, your phone lines, to the high-speed data networks that power our internet.
Yep.
And then there's audio and video distribution for things like presentations, entertainment systems, even security systems, surveillance cameras. Building automation systems that control lighting, HVAC, all of that can run on structured cabling.
So it's really about connecting everything, enabling all the tech we rely on.
Exactly. It's the foundation that all these different technologies are built upon.
Now, we keep mentioning BICSI. For someone who's completely new to this, who are they? And why are they so important in the world of structured cabling?
So BICSI stands for Building Industry Consulting Service International. They're like the global authority, the leading association for professionals in the ICT industry.
ICT being.
Information and communications technology. It's a broad term that basically covers everything we're talking about here.
Okay.
So BICSI develops the standards, the best practices for the industry. They provide training, education, and they administer certifications like the RCDD.
So when you get certified by BICSI, it's like getting a seal of approval from the experts.
Exactly. It carries a lot of weight and it's recognized all over the world.
Got it. So that global recognition is a huge advantage for someone with an RCDD certification. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about you, the listener, and where you might fit into all of this. Let's assess your starting point. What if you're thinking, okay, this RCDD thing sounds awesome, but am I even eligible to pursue it?
Right. Well, that's a really good question to ask yourself right up front. And the answer is it depends.
Okay, on what?
BICSI has specific eligibility requirements that you need to meet before you can even take the RCDD exam.
What are those requirements?
Well, the main path to eligibility is having at least 5 years of demonstrable experience in ICT design.
So just working in IT for 5 years isn't enough.
Not quite. It has to be specifically focused on design. You need to have been actively involved in planning, specifying, creating drawings, and documentation for structured cabling systems.
So hands-on design experience is key. What if someone has a more formal education background? Does that count for anything?
Yes, definitely. If you have a bachelor's degree in a related field like electrical engineering, computer science, telecommunications, something like that, then the required experience is reduced to 2 years.
Okay, so a degree can fast-track you a bit.
Yeah.
But regardless of whether you have a degree or not, it's not just about saying, I've been doing this for X number of years, right? You actually have to prove it.
Yeah. Absolutely. When you apply to BICSI, you'll need to provide documented evidence of your design experience. This could be in the form of professional references from supervisors or clients who can vouch for your work. Or you might need to submit examples of your project documentation, like design drawings or specifications that you've created.
So they really want to make sure you've actually got the experience under your belt.
Right. They want to ensure you've been in the trenches actually doing the design work. Now, what if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I don't quite have that level of design experience yet. Does that mean the RCDD is completely out of reach?
Yeah. What if you're still early in your career?
Well, not necessarily. Even if you don't meet the eligibility requirements right now, it's never too early to start learning.
Okay.
By understanding the principles, the body of knowledge now, you'll be that much further ahead when you do gain the necessary experience. It's like getting a head start on the game.
Yeah, building that foundation makes sense. So let's say you are eligible or you're working towards eligibility. What are the essential learning resources you need to get your hands on? What are the must-haves for your RCDD journey?
Okay, so if you're serious about getting your RCDD certification, there's one absolutely essential resource that you can't do without.
Okay, lay on us.
It's called the Telecommunications Distribution Methods Manual, or TDMM for short, and it's published by BICSI.
Okay, the TDMM, it sounds pretty important. What exactly is this manual? Like, what kind of information does it contain?
It's basically the Bible of structured cabling design. It's the official comprehensive body of knowledge that the RCDE exam is based on. And it's not exactly light reading. It's over 2,000 pages long, and it's packed with technical detail.
Whoa, 2,000 pages. That's a lot to digest.
Yeah, it's a hefty one. But it covers everything from the fundamental principles of design, industry standards, to the specifics of different technologies, cabling types, best practices for all those low voltage applications we talked about.
So it's basically the encyclopedia of everything an RCDD needs to know.
Exactly. It's the ultimate source of truth. Now, I know 2,000 pages can seem daunting, but thankfully there are some other resources that can help you along the way.
Oh, like what?
Well, BICSI offers official practice exams, which are incredibly valuable. They give you a feel for the format of the actual exam, the types of questions you'll encounter, and help you pinpoint your weak areas.
So it's like a test run before the real deal.
Yeah. Exactly. And beyond that, flashcards, quick reference sheets, those can be really helpful for memorizing key terms, definitions, formulas, that kind of thing.
Classic study tools.
And
What about like audio summaries or video tutorials? Are those helpful for RCDD prep?
yeah, some people find those really helpful, especially if you're more of an auditory or visual learner. There are lots of resources available online, and some of them are pretty good.
Okay, so there are options. And what about connecting with other people who are studying for the RCDD? Is that something you'd recommend?
Oh, absolutely. Online forums, study groups, those can be fantastic resources. It helps to connect with others who are going through the same thing, share tips, ask questions, get support.
Yeah, it's like a community of learners.
Exactly. And that community can make a big difference in your motivation and your chances of success.
I totally agree. And just a reminder, we here at the Deep Dive want to be a part of your support network as well.
Absolutely. We'll be doing more episodes on RCDD topics in the future, diving deeper into different aspects, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Now, one crucial thing to remember is that while all these supplementary resources are helpful, the TDMM is still the ultimate authority. Don't try to skip it or rely solely on summaries or other materials.
Yeah, the TDMM is king. Everything else is just there to help you understand and apply the knowledge contained within it.
Got it. So you've got this massive manual, the TDMM. How do you even begin to approach it? Like, what's a good strategy for actually studying and absorbing all that information?
Well, without a plan, you can easily get lost in the sheer volume of material. So I recommend a three-phase study approach. Phase one is the overview phase.
Okay, what does that involve?
It's all about getting a broad understanding of the landscape. Skim through the TDMM, read each chapter to get the main ideas, but don't get bogged down in memorizing every detail at this point.
So it's like a reconnaissance mission, getting the lay of the land.
Exactly. Just focus on absorbing the general flow of information. And this phase should take about 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay, and then what?
Phase two is the deep dive phase.
Sounds intense.
It is. This is where you really dig into each chapter, study it in detail, take notes, create flashcards, really wrestle with the concepts.
So this is where the real learning happens.
Yeah, and this phase can take a bit longer, maybe 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay, and then the final phase.
The final phase is the review and practice phase.
Okay, so this is where you put it all together, right?
Right, exactly. You revisit your weaker areas, take practice exams, really get familiar with the exam format and the time constraints. And this phase should take about 2 to 3 weeks leading up to your exam.
Got it. So overview, deep dive, review, and practice. That's a solid plan. But for many people, finding the time to study can be a challenge. What's your advice on how to balance study time with work, family, and everything else life throws at you?
Consistency is key. Even if you can only spare an hour a day for studying, that's 30 hours a month. And that's a lot better than trying to cram everything in at the last minute.
Yeah, slow and steady wins the race, right?
Exactly. Small, consistent effort over time is much more effective and sustainable than sporadic bursts of intense studying.
Great advice. Now, let's talk about some common mistakes that beginners often make when preparing for the RCDD. What are some pitfalls to avoid?
One big mistake is underestimating the TDMM. Some people try to rely solely on summaries, online guides, or even outdated materials, thinking they can bypass the main source.
Yeah, trying to take shortcuts.
Right, but that's a recipe for disaster. The exam is based on the TDMM, so you have to study it thoroughly.
No way around it. What's another common mistake?
Delaying practice questions and exams until the last minute.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that in the past.
It's a common one. But practice exams aren't just for assessing your knowledge right before the exam. They're a valuable learning tool throughout the process.
So use them early and often.
Exactly. They help you understand how the concepts are tested, and they help you identify your weak areas so you can adjust your study plan accordingly.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other pitfalls to watch out for?
Lack of a structured study schedule. Without a plan, it's easy to procrastinate, jump around randomly, and ultimately get overwhelmed and burned out.
So planning and organization are crucial.
Absolutely. Set aside specific times for studying, even if it's just for an hour a day, and stick to it. And break down your study goals into smaller, manageable chunks.
Great tips. Now let's talk about the importance of building a support network. Going through this RCDD journey alone can be tough, right?
Yeah, it can feel pretty isolating. That's why it's so important to connect with others who are on the same path or who've already been through it.
So where can people find this kind of support?
There are online forums, study groups, even Discord channels, specifically for RCDD prep. And don't forget about the resources and community that we're building here at the Deep Dive.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
Exactly. And that sense of community can make a huge difference in your motivation and your overall success. Now, one last thing I want to emphasize is the importance of staying up to date with BICSI.
Okay, why is that so important?
Because they occasionally update the exam format, release new editions of the TDMM, make other changes that could affect your preparation.
So you don't want to be caught off guard.
Definitely not. Check their website regularly, sign up for their newsletters, make sure you're always in the loop.
Great advice. So let's wrap things up. What are the key takeaways for someone who's just starting out on their RCDD journey?
First, understand what the RCDD certification is all about and why it's so valuable in the industry.
Okay, check. What's next?
Make sure you meet BICSI's eligibility requirements. If not, start working towards them.
Got it. Then what?
Get your hands on the TDMM. It's your Bible.
The TDMM is king.
Exactly. Then create a realistic study plan, incorporate those practice exams, and find a supportive community to help you along the way.
Awesome advice. And the ultimate takeaway.
The RCDD exam is challenging, no doubt about it, but it's achievable with the right approach, the right preparation, and the right mindset.
I love that. So to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the RCDD certification. If you found this helpful, please consider following or subscribing to The Deep Dive. We've got more exciting episodes coming your way.
And don't forget to share this episode with anyone else who might be interested in pursuing the RCDD. We want to help as many people as possible achieve their goals in this field.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions about the RCDD, about your study plan, about anything we've talked about today, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to help.
We're always happy to connect and share our insights.
So until next time, keep studying smart, keep pushing forward, and keep building your future in this amazing world of technology.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.